The Medici family, you know the ones in Florence, the fathers of the Renaissance. They even made a series about them in the US, didn't they? So this family is tremendously cool for a reason, and there are many members of this family worth talking about. And I'm going to be making a lot of videos about different members of this family because they were fun, because they were scandalous, because they got up to all sorts. So to help you navigate this family and to create as little confusion as possible, I want to make this video today to create a little bit of a setting for them and to briefly go through the family tree to help you understand more about them. You can come back to this video in the future when you look at the other videos about important members of this family as we go along. Okay, let's get started. Now, first of all, we're going to start with Giovanni di Bicci. Okay, Giovanni di Bicci is a little bit like, well, obviously we can go even further back than that, but we only want to start with him. He's a merchant. He starts off as a cloth merchant. Now, the story of the Medici family is a little bit the story of Florence, because Florence starts to make its wealth because of its cloth industry. In the mountains surrounding Florence, there was a lot of sheep, and the wool from those sheep was used for making, thread, which was then put into looms and then made into cloth. And the cloth industry made Florence very, very, very rich. The cloth was exported all over Europe, okay? Now, a lot of the families that made a lot of money with the cloth industry then turned that money to banking money and turned themselves into banking families, into banks, basically. And this was exactly the story of the Medici family. Giovanni di Bicci is one of those people that starts off as a cloth merchant and then basically starts off his own little bank. And he is very smart because he invests, and we'll talk about that on another episode, but him and his son invest in someone that no one else would have invested in. And I'll tell you just that he's a pirate for now, and that will then bring them back a lot of prestige and money later along the line. Now, this is where you have to follow me closely, because Giovanni di Bicci has two sons, Lorenzo and Cosimo. You will find these names very, very often, okay? Cosimo and Lorenzo, you find them a lot. Often, when you come to Florence and you hear the word Cosimo, you're thinking that you're talking about one Cosimo, but actually it's another one. So let's differentiate them right now. This is Cosimo, the kind of like one of the founding fathers of the Medici. And he is not Cosimo the First, even though he's the first Cosimo, because you can only put first, second and third after a name once you're a nobleman. But at this stage, the Medici are not nobles yet. They are merchants and then bankers, all right? Florence at this stage is a republic. I know that we often think of the Middle Ages as being a time in which there were kings and dukes and things like that, and there were, but the most important and, well, some of the most important and successful cities in Italy during the late Middle Ages and the beginning of the Renaissance were in fact republics. They were democracies, all right? Obviously, it's not like a democracy like we intend it today, but still, it was basically run by people which were not noble people. And in fact, noblemen were kept away from government, okay, lest they interfere too much. Maybe I'll make another video in the future about exactly how this worked, the political situation in these cities during the Middle Ages, okay? All you need to know for now is that they were a very powerful family. Yes, they were kind of, we talk about ruling behind closed doors because they were making decisions, but in theory, they weren't allowed to make decisions. In theory, this was supposed to be a democracy, okay? So, remember that Cosimo has a brother, Lorenzo. That family line that goes from Lorenzo, we won't go back to that for a while, but they'll become important later. So remember that Cosimo, we call him Cosimo the Elder, has a brother which continues his own lineage off to one side, okay? Cosimo the Elder has a son. That son is not the smartest of people, so won't talk about him. I won't make a video about him, Peter. That son has another son, so Cosimo the Elder's grandson is Lawrence the Magnificent. Now, you know you've made it if history ends up calling you Lawrence the Magnificent, okay? And he is very educated, very, very, very smart, a strategist, a politician, which is amazing. We will for sure make a video about him because he is tremendously cool. Now, he has another son called Peter, also not so cool. Like, after the first one was called Peter, I wouldn't have had a second one called Peter because obviously it's not a very fortunate name for the family. But going ahead, he also has another son called John. That John will later become Pope Leo X. That John actually ends up being raised in the same household as Michelangelo because Lawrence the Magnificent takes Michelangelo in and has him living as a teenager and has him living in the same home as John, who will later become Pope Leo X. This will become very interesting when we make a video that talks about Michelangelo and when we'll make a video that talks about Pope Leo X. Two very interesting characters and two very, very steamy kind of people. Is that a word? Well, people that you don't want to be on their wrong side, okay? Now, oh, I'm baking bread. Yes, you're right, Giacomo, I'm making bread. I'm just going to get some water, just a moment. So, getting back to us. So, we have John. Then we have a situation in which, so John becomes Pope. We have Lawrence the Magnificent has a brother who dies in such a dramatic way. That will be a fun video to watch when we learn about how his brother dies, Julian, in like really, really dramatic way. And the people that kill him also end up dead in a dramatic way because you do not want to kill Lawrence Magnificent's brother. So the son of Julian, which is left an orphan, basically, he will become the second Medici Pope with the name Pope Clement VII. So we have two Medici popes, okay? Now, at this point, we start to have the people of Florence, which are kind of disillusioned with the Medici. They're kind of tired of the Medici because of Peter, because you do not want to call your son Peter if you're a Medici, but it's lesson learned too late. And they get kicked out of Florence, okay? So for about 18 years, we have a republic, which is truly a republic because the Medici aren't there anymore. In the meantime, John becomes Pope Leo X, and he is going to work really hard to try to get the Medici back into Florence. But he knows that he basically thinks, enough with this republic BS. I want to be back, and I want it to be like us officially back and Florence officially ours. So he manages to turn Florence into a duchy. This means that it's not a republic anymore, but it is a place where there are dukes. The Medici are the dukes, and they are the ones ruling the city. Now, the first Duke of Florence ends up being Alexander. Alexander is an idiot, to be honest. He dies really fast. And so we are left with a duchy with no duke. But it had to be a Medici to be the duke. So the nobles who are thinking, well, I'd much rather this be a duchy than a republic, are running around like headless chicken trying to find anyone with a Medici surname to place in, like, as the new Duke of Florence. And so they can't find a Medici. Where do they go to look? They go to look at that other branch. Do you remember I told you that there's another branch that continues from Lawrence, the brother of Cosimo the Elder? So they go and find someone from that lineage who's called Cosimo. And Cosimo is living in the countryside, and they're thinking, this guy, he's like late teenage years. He's never really lived in the city of Florence. He must be so easy to manipulate. So we'll just have him as a figurehead. We'll place him here and then we'll manipulate him and do whatever we want. All right. Yeah, they didn't think very hard because Cosimo Cosimo, who ends up being the first Duke of his name, so Cosimo I, Duke of Florence, he is the son of Giovanni dalle Bande Nere, who we will most certainly make a video about because I have a historical crush on Giovanni dalle Bande Nere. All you need to know for now is that he invented a cropped hair. When all the other guys had long hair, he invented like cropped hair for noblemen. He was really hot. So Cosimo I is the son of Giovanni dalle Bande Nere and the only princess of the Renaissance to lead her own armies, who we are absolutely making a video about, who is Caterina Sforza. So he was trained by his mom, who trained armies, who fought in combat with her own armor, okay? So he was very, very well prepared to lead Florence. And in fact, those people that thought they could manipulate him, he had most of them killed, and he became an incredible leader of Florence. And we will talk about him most certainly for sure. Then we will continue talking about some of his kids, not many of them. A lot of them didn't do too much importance. If other guides hear me, they'll be very angry, but to be fair, I mean, they weren't as cool as he was. We will talk, however, about his son Francis, who was not a great leader, but he was very, very scandalous in his ways. And we'll talk about how him and his lover and his wife all ended up in a bloody triangle that ended up very badly. I am putting salt in my bread because this is not traditional Tuscan bread. That will be elements for another video when we'll talk about salt or no salt in bread, which is a big feud over here and has very deep historical roots. Of course, my bread has nothing to do with traditional local bread. Okay, so we are at the end of the family tree that we're going to be talking about today. There are a lot of other members that I did not mention today who I will make videos about. For example, we've had two women of the Medici family who ended up becoming queens of France for weird reasons. So we'll talk about that for sure. And but for now, all you need to know is that the Medici were extremely cool, full of really crazy family members, and that you need to subscribe to learn more for next time. Però si è appiccicato tutto. Tutto appiccicaticcio mi è venuto, vedi, non posso... In realtà le cose che cucinerò verranno tutte una merda.